decisions for your future. Every time you delay what must be done, break a promise to yourself, or wait until you feel ready, you are not standing still. You are training yourself to become less reliable, less focused, and easier to control. That is the brutal truth. Your life does not change when you understand more. It changes when your actions finally become stronger than your excuses. In this video, you will learn 7 Stoic rules to master your mind, rebuild self-trust, act without waiting for motivation, and become the kind of person who follows through even when fear, doubt, and discomfort are present. Stay until the end, because the final rule will show you why your greatest opponent is not another person, bad luck, or your past. It is the version of you that keeps choosing comfort over character. Most people believe they are waiting for a better time, a calmer week, more confidence, more energy, or a clearer plan. But in reality, they are training themselves to delay. Every time you postpone an important action, your mind learns that discomfort is a reason to stop. Fear deserves authority, and your promises can be broken without consequence. This is how self-trust slowly disappears. Not through one dramatic failure, but through small betrayals repeated every day. You say you will wake up earlier, but you press snooze. You say you will begin the project, but you reach for your phone. You say you will speak honestly, but you avoid the conversation. You say you want to change, but you keep negotiating with the habits that are keeping you weak. Then, one day, you wonder why your confidence is gone. But confidence did not disappear without a cause. It was damaged each time your actions contradicted your words. That is the real cost of delay. You do not only lose time, you lose evidence that you can rely on yourself. Once self-trust becomes weak, even simple decisions begin to feel heavy. You overthink because you no longer believe you will handle the result. You hesitate because part of you expects to quit. You search for reassurance because your own word no longer feels strong enough. This is why waiting for the perfect moment is so dangerous. The perfect moment does not arrive and rescue you. The longer you wait, the more likely you are to become less prepared, less disciplined, and more afraid than the person who could have started today. Stoic philosophy does not ask you to control the future. It asks you to take responsibility for the present choice. You may not control how quickly progress appears, whether others support you, or whether the first attempt succeeds. But you control whether you begin. That choice matters because every action is a vote. A vote for discipline or avoidance, a vote for courage or comfort, a vote for the person you want to become, or for the person your current habits are creating. Delay often feels harmless because one missed day does not look like failure. One broken promise does not feel permanent. One more excuse seems small. But repeated behavior becomes identity. You do not suddenly become undisciplined. You become undisciplined by repeatedly choosing what is easy over what is necessary. The same is true in the opposite direction. You do not become strong through one emotional decision. You become strong by keeping small promises when nobody is watching. That is why change must begin before you feel fully ready. Action creates information. Once you begin, you discover what is difficult, what must be learned, what needs to be adjusted, and how much smaller fear becomes after movement. So choose one decision you have been postponing. Do not choose the largest problem in your life. Choose the next honest action. Open the document, make the appointment, turn off the phone, take the walk. State the boundary, work for 10 minutes. The goal is not to transform your entire life today. The goal is to stop proving to yourself that delay is stronger than your word. Because your future is not being shaped only by your plans. It is being shaped by what you repeatedly do when action becomes uncomfortable. And before you can master your future, you must understand one essential Stoic truth. The mind does not become strong by being obeyed. It becomes strong by being trained. Stoic philosophy begins with a distinction that is simple to understand and difficult to live. Some things belong to you and some things do not. Your choices, judgments, effort, attention, habits, and behavior belong to you. Other people's opinions, unexpected events, the timing of results, and the final outcome do not. Most people reverse this order. They neglect the part they can control while obsessing over the part they cannot. They worry about whether they will succeed, but avoid the work that would make success more likely. They try to control how others see them, but fail to control their own words. They demand certainty from the future while refusing to discipline themselves in the present. This is why the mind becomes unstable. It spends its strength fighting reality instead of directing action. The Stoic response is not passivity, it is responsibility. You do not stop caring about the outcome. You stop allowing the outcome to command your character. You prepare fully, act honestly, and give your best effort. But you do not hand your peace to something outside your control. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not only by events, but also by the judgments they form about those events. A setback happens, and the mind immediately adds a story. It says, "This should not be happening." It says the future is ruined. It says the difficulty proves you are not capable. The event may be real, but the conclusion is often untested. A rejection is real. "I will never succeed" is a judgment. A mistake is real. "I am a failure" is a judgment. A delay is real. "Nothing is working" is a judgment. Self-mastery begins when you learn to separate the fact from the story your mind attaches to it. This does not mean denying emotion. You may still feel frustration, fear, disappointment, or anger. The goal is not to become numb. The goal is to prevent the first emotional impulse from becoming the final decision. When something difficult happens, pause before you react. Ask yourself, what exactly happened? What am I adding to it? What is still within my control? That pause creates distance between you and the impulse. Inside that distance, you regain choice. You may not control the obstacle, but you control whether you respond with discipline or panic. You may not control another person's behavior, but you control whether you abandon your standards. You may not control the result, but you control whether your next action is useful. This is the foundation of a Stoic mindset. The mind is not meant to obey every fear, excuse, or desire that appears. It is meant to examine them. The next time your mind says, "I cannot do this," do not accept the sentence immediately. Ask, is this a fact, or is this discomfort speaking? When it says, "I need to wait," ask, is waiting wise, or am I avoiding action? When it says, "This is unfair," ask, what response would still protect my character? These questions return authority to reason. You cannot build a stronger life while allowing every temporary thought to act like a permanent truth. Thoughts must be examined, impulses must be delayed, decisions must be connected to values. That is how the mind becomes disciplined, not by removing every negative thought, but by refusing to let an untested thought decide your behavior. And once you understand that your judgments shape your actions, the next step becomes unavoidable. You must begin changing the voice you repeatedly listen to inside your own mind. The voice inside your mind is not always telling you the truth. Sometimes it is repeating fear, comparison, and old disappointment in the tone of certainty. It says you are not ready. It says you are behind. It says your past has already decided your future. The danger is not that these thoughts appear. The danger is that you stop questioning them. A thought repeated often enough can begin to feel like identity. "I failed" becomes "I am a failure." "I feel afraid" becomes "I am weak." "This is difficult" becomes "I cannot do it." Once that happens, your behavior begins to follow the label. You avoid challenges because avoidance now feels consistent with who you believe you are. You lower your standards because you expect yourself to fail. You stop trying, not because the path is impossible, but because the story in your head has already decided the ending. Stoic self-mastery begins by separating fact from interpretation. You made a mistake. That is a fact. "I always ruin everything" is a story. Someone rejected you. That is a fact. No one will ever value me is a story. You feel uncertain. That is a fact. I am incapable is a story. The practical step is to catch the sentence before it becomes a command. When your mind says, I cannot do this, ask, what part of this can I do now? When it says, I always fail, ask, what exactly happened and what can I learn? When it says, I am not confident enough, ask, what action would create evidence of confidence? This is not empty positive thinking. You are not pretending everything is easy. You are training your mind to use language that leads to action instead of surrender. Your inner dialogue becomes a mental environment. Live in a hostile environment long enough, and even simple action begins to feel dangerous. That is why you must protect what enters your mind. Be careful with the voices you consume, the people you imitate, and the content that shapes your first thoughts each morning. A mind filled with comparison, outrage, and distraction will struggle to produce discipline. For the next 24 hours, notice every absolute statement you make about yourself. Words like always, never, impossible, ruined, and not enough. Then rewrite each sentence in factual language. I always quit becomes, I quit before, but I can complete 10 minutes today. I have no discipline becomes, my system is weak and I need a smaller daily commitment. I cannot change becomes, change is uncomfortable, but one useful action is available now. You do not need to believe every encouraging sentence immediately. You only need to stop treating every destructive sentence as truth. Because self-mastery does not begin when negative thoughts disappear. It begins when they are no longer allowed to decide who you are. Most people wait for motivation because they believe action should feel natural before it begins. They want energy first, confidence first, clarity first. But motivation is unstable. It appears when conditions are favorable and disappears the moment work becomes uncomfortable. If your progress depends on motivation, your life will always be controlled by mood. You will work when you feel inspired, stop when you feel tired, and delay anything that creates resistance. Over time, this teaches your mind that feelings have more authority than values. The Stoic response is not to ignore emotion. It is to stop asking emotion for permission. A disciplined person does not wake up every day feeling ready. They act because the action is necessary, reasonable, and connected to the person they want to become. This is why action often comes before motivation. You do not become motivated and then begin. You begin, create movement, and motivation often follows. You do not become confident and then take the difficult step. You take the step, survive the discomfort, and confidence grows from evidence. The mistake is believing that you need a powerful emotional state to perform a useful action. You do not. You need a clear starting point. When a task feels too heavy, reduce it to the smallest meaningful version. Do not promise yourself 2 hours of work. Promise 10 focused minutes. Do not promise a complete transformation. Promise one workout, one page, one phone call, or one honest conversation. The purpose of the minimum action is not to create impressive results. It is to break the habit of hesitation. Every time you begin before you feel ready, you teach your mind that discomfort is not a command. Set the time and place before the moment arrives. I will work later invites negotiation. I will begin at 7 at my desk for 15 minutes, removes unnecessary choice. Then use a simple rule. Start before your mind begins bargaining. The mind will offer familiar excuses. 5 more minutes. Tomorrow will be better. Today does not matter. You are too tired. You need a better plan. Do not argue with every excuse. Begin the first movement. Open the file. Stand up. Put on the shoes. Write the first sentence. Movement interrupts negotiation. You do not need to complete everything. You need to prove that your values can still direct your behavior when your feelings resist. That proof matters. Each time you act without waiting for motivation, you strengthen self-trust. You become someone who can be relied upon, especially on difficult days. So choose one action you have been postponing and define its minimum version. Make it small enough to begin today, but meaningful enough to count. Then start, because motivation may help you begin once. Discipline is what allows you to return. Self-trust is not created by repeating that you believe in yourself. It is created when your actions give you a reason to believe. Every promise you make to yourself becomes evidence. You say you will wake up earlier, finish the work, or stop returning to a habit that keeps weakening you. Then discomfort appears, and you break the agreement. At first, it seems small, but your mind remembers. It learns that your words are negotiable. It learns that discomfort can cancel commitment. It learns that intention does not always lead to action. This is how self-trust is damaged, not through one failure, but through repeated proof that you cannot rely on yourself. The good news is that it can be rebuilt the same way it was lost. You do not need a dramatic transformation. You need small promises that are clear enough to keep. If you promise 1 hour and complete nothing, your mind records failure. If you promise 10 minutes and complete 10 minutes, your mind records integrity. That is why the size of the promise matters less than the honesty of the commitment. Choose a standard that is difficult enough to matter, but realistic enough to repeat. Then protect it. If the commitment is to read 5 pages, read 5 pages. If it is to walk for 15 minutes, walk for 15 minutes. If it is to stay off your phone during the first hour of the morning, protect that hour. Each completed promise becomes evidence that your word has weight, that discomfort does not control you, and that you are becoming more dependable. This is where confidence comes from. Confidence is not a feeling you wait for. It is the memory of promises kept. For the next 7 days, use one rule. Do not make promises you are unwilling to keep. Promise less if necessary, but once you decide, follow through. And if you fail, do not respond with shame or an extreme plan. Return to the minimum action the next day. The goal is not perfection, the goal is reliability. Ask yourself tonight, what is one promise I can keep tomorrow, even on a difficult day? Write it down, give it a time, give it a place, then keep it without negotiation. Because every time your actions match your words, you rebuild a part of yourself that was once weakened. Most people do not fail because they are incapable. They fail because they escape discomfort too quickly. The moment the work becomes boring, they reach for the phone. The moment a conversation becomes tense, they avoid it. The moment progress slows down, they assume the path is wrong. This teaches the mind that discomfort is a signal to stop. But discomfort is not always danger. Sometimes it is simply the feeling of growth. Learning feels uncomfortable because you are facing what you do not know. Discipline feels uncomfortable because you are refusing an easy impulse. Boundaries feel uncomfortable because you are risking disappointment. Change feels uncomfortable because the old version of you is losing control. The Stoic path does not glorify pain. It does not ask you to destroy yourself through exhaustion or ignore real limits. It asks you to stop treating every difficult feeling as an emergency. There is a difference between harmful suffering and useful discomfort. Harmful suffering damages your health, safety, or dignity. Useful discomfort strengthens your ability to act according to your values. The difficult workout may be useful discomfort. The honest conversation may be useful discomfort. The urge to check your phone and the decision not to obey it may be useful discomfort. You do not need to enjoy these moments. You need to stop seeing them as proof that something is wrong. Choose one controlled difficulty each day. Take a short walk without your phone. Finish one task before seeking entertainment. Hold a clear boundary without over-explaining. Work for 15 focused minutes after the first urge to quit. Do not choose something extreme. The goal is not punishment. The goal is training. Each time you remain present through discomfort, your mind learns that the feeling can rise and pass without controlling your behavior. Use one sentence when the resistance appears. This is uncomfortable, not impossible. Then stay with the action a little longer. 1 more minute, 1 more paragraph, 1 more honest sentence, 1 more step. That small extension matters because it breaks the automatic link between discomfort and escape. Over time, you stop asking, "How do I avoid this feeling?" You begin asking, "What is this feeling asking me to practice?" Patience, courage, focus, restraint, honesty. And when you stop running from every difficult moment, you discover that many of the barriers you feared were not walls. They were thresholds. Discipline does not mean pushing without limits. It means knowing the difference between recovery and retreat. Many people make one of 2 mistakes. They either stop the moment the work becomes difficult, or they keep forcing themselves until exhaustion destroys their consistency. Neither path leads to self-mastery. Rest is necessary, but it must have a purpose. There is a difference between resting so you can return stronger and escaping so you do not have to return at all. One restores your capacity, the other protects your avoidance. Before you stop, ask 3 questions. Am I truly depleted or simply uncomfortable? Will this break help me return with more focus? Have I decided when I will begin again? If you are genuinely exhausted, rest without guilt. Sleep, eat, walk, step away from the screen and let your body recover, but give the return a time. Do not say, "I will continue later." Say, "I will return at 7 tomorrow morning," or "I will begin again after 30 minutes. That detail turns rest from an escape into a strategy. Stoic discipline is not about proving that you can suffer endlessly. It is about preserving your ability to fulfill your responsibilities over time. A person who never rests eventually becomes unreliable. A person who only rests never becomes capable. The goal is rhythm, effort, recovery, return. You may have a difficult day and complete only the minimum. That does not mean the system failed. It means the minimum protected the habit. You may need to slow down after a setback. That does not mean you are starting over. It means you are adjusting without abandoning the direction. What matters most is the return. If you miss the morning, return in the afternoon. If you miss the day, return the next day. If you lose momentum, return to the smallest useful action. Never use imperfection as permission to disappear. Use this sentence when you need recovery. I am resting so I can return, not so I can escape. Then decide exactly when the return will happen. Because strength is not measured by how long you can push without stopping. It is measured by how reliably you come back. The moment you believe you already know enough is the moment your growth begins to slow. A rigid mind protects its pride. A strong mind protects its ability to learn. Many people resist feedback because they confuse correction with rejection. They hear that something needs improvement and immediately feel attacked. Instead of asking what the lesson is, they defend the version of themselves that created the problem. Stoic wisdom requires humility, not the kind that makes you think less of yourself, but the kind that allows reality to teach you. You will make mistakes. Some plans will fail. Some methods will stop working. Some assumptions will be exposed as wrong. None of this has to become a personal crisis. A mistake is information. A setback is information. Even criticism may contain useful information. The disciplined mind does not accept every opinion blindly, but it examines evidence without protecting the ego. When something goes wrong, do not ask only, "Who is to blame?" Ask, "What did this reveal?" Maybe your preparation was weak. Maybe your standard was unclear. Maybe the goal is still right, but the method needs to change. Adjustment is not failure. It is intelligence in motion. Commit to the direction, but remain flexible about the method. If the goal matters, study what is not working. Ask better questions. Seek honest feedback. Learn the skill you have been avoiding. Observe people who are already effective in the area where you struggle. Then apply what you learn. Knowledge that never changes behavior becomes another form of avoidance. For the next 7 days, ask one question each evening. What did today teach me that I can use tomorrow? Write one answer, then choose one adjustment. not 10. 1. Maybe you prepare the night before. Maybe you remove an app from your phone. Maybe you change the time of your work session. Maybe you stop discussing your goals with people who weaken your focus. Small corrections protect long-term progress, because self-mastery does not belong to the person who never gets anything wrong. It belongs to the person who can face the truth, learn quickly, and return with a better response. Your greatest competition is not another person. It is the version of you that chooses comfort when discipline is required, excuses when honesty is required, and delay when action is available. Comparison distracts you from this battle. You look at someone else's progress and decide you are behind. You study their results without seeing their timing, advantages, failures, or sacrifices. Then you either become discouraged or try to copy a path that was never meant for you. The Stoic mindset turns your attention inward, not towards self-obsession, but towards self-examination. The real question is not, am I ahead of them? It is, am I stronger than the version of myself who faced this same situation before? Did you respond more calmly? Did you keep the promise? Did you return faster after failure? Did you stop one excuse before it became an action? That is progress. The weaker version of you often appears through small compromises. One more hour of distraction, one more delay, one more boundary you fail to protect, one more promise you quietly break. These moments seem small, but identity is built through repetition. Every time you choose the harder but more honorable action, you weaken the old pattern. Every time you act according to your values, even when no one is watching, you become more difficult to control. This is why self-mastery is private before it becomes visible. People may later call you disciplined or confident. They will see the result, but not the mornings when you acted without motivation, the evenings when you returned after failure, or the moments when you chose restraint over impulse. Do not wait for recognition. Your task is not to impress others. Your task is to become someone whose actions can survive without applause. At the end of each day, ask, what did I do today that the weaker version of me would have avoided? Then ask, where did the old version of me still win? Do not use the answer to shame yourself. Use it to prepare. If distraction won, change the environment. If fear won, reduce the next action. If anger won, create a pause. If avoidance won, schedule the conversation. The goal is not to hate who you were. That version of you survived with the tools it had. But survival is not the same as mastery. At some point, you must stop protecting the habits that are protecting your weakness, because every meaningful transformation creates a conflict between who you have been and who you are trying to become. One of them must lose influence. Make sure it is not the stronger one. Understanding these rules is not enough. Your mind changes when your behavior gives it new evidence. For the next 7 days, use one simple Stoic system. Each morning, write down 3 things: the thought most likely to weaken you, the action that matters most, and the minimum promise you will keep, no matter how you feel. Keep the promise small and measurable. 10 minutes of focused work, 1 difficult message, 1 workout, 1 hour without checking your phone. Then decide the exact time and place. During the day, whenever resistance appears, do not argue with it. Pause, breathe out slowly, and ask, what is the smallest useful action I can take now? Then move before the mind begins negotiating. Each evening, review the day with 3 questions. What did I control well? Where did fear, distraction, or comfort take control? What will I change tomorrow? Do not use the review to punish yourself. Use it to collect information. If you kept the promise, record it. If you broke it, reduce the action and return the next day. The goal is not perfection. The goal is to build a pattern your mind can trust. For 7 days, also track one moment when you acted like the stronger version of yourself. Maybe you stayed calm when you wanted to react. Maybe you returned after losing focus. Maybe you said no without explaining too much. Maybe you acted before motivation arrived. Write that moment down. By the end of the week, you will have more than motivation. You will have evidence. Evidence that your thoughts do not control every action. Evidence that discomfort does not always make you quit. Evidence that your word can become reliable again. Use this commitment each morning. My mind serves my values. It does not command my life. Then prove it through one action before the day ends. Because self-mastery is not created by one powerful realization. It is created by 7 ordinary days in which you repeatedly choose discipline over impulse. Your life will not change because you heard the right words. It will change when your actions become stronger than your excuses. You do not need perfect confidence. You do not need endless motivation. You do not need the future to become easier before you begin. You need a mind that can feel fear without obeying it, experience discomfort without escaping it, and face failure without turning it into identity. That is the essence of Stoic self-mastery. You learn to question the voice that says you cannot. You act before motivation arrives. You rebuild self-trust through small promises kept. You accept useful discomfort, rest without abandoning the path, learn from reality, and compete with the weaker version of yourself instead of comparing your life with everyone else. None of this requires a dramatic transformation today. It requires one honest decision. Choose one action you have been delaying. Make it clear. Make it small. Give it a time and a place. Then complete it before the day ends. That single action will not change your entire life, but it will change the evidence your mind receives about who you are. If this message found you at the right moment, write this commitment in the comments. My mind serves my values. It does not command my life. Do not write it as motivation. Write it as a standard. Subscribe to Orion Resolve if you are serious about building discipline, inner strength, emotional control, and a stoic mindset that remains steady when life becomes difficult. And in the next video, we will go deeper into one of the most important battles of self-mastery: how to stop negotiating with yourself every time the work becomes uncomfortable. Remember this: your future is not waiting for a more motivated version of you. It is being shaped by the decisions you make while motivation is absent.